Vivo.
Bom dia.
Bom dia, tudo bem? Como estão?
Good morning. How's everybody? Good morning, Danny. Good morning, Leandro. Everybody can hear us? The second day, Brazil Agile 2021. Good morning, everybody. So let's get started with our opening with important information before we start this long and beautiful day. My name is Leandro Garcia. I am a white man with a beard, with glasses, happy and smiling being here with you today, and grateful for the opportunity of sharing this moment. A very cool day where we're gonna have a fantastic keynote. Yeah, wonderful. Here, Daniela Oliveira. I am a white person, short hair to my shoulder, brown hair, big glasses with a bang and long earrings, red. We're gonna have a special participation, very important, in our sign language interpreters, Marina, Joana, and Natalia. So special thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Then sign language. Thank you for being with us. And we have with this new logo that started last year, has different colors. I thought it was really cool. The colors of our visual identity are yellow, green, and dark blue, which is present in all of our postings. Very cool. So we would like to thank our interpreters again. Thank you for the work you are doing today. Very important work you're doing here today. And also I'd like to thank Paulo, who is in the technical, and Pedro, who's going to do the translation from English into Portuguese from Klaus talk. That's it. Agile Brazil is more than a conference, it's a community of people that are here together trying to promote all this and what's going to happen today. And it is very significant in terms of the volunteering that we have. Leandro, it locked a little bit your screen. We can continue with the next. Now we are here with information, experiencing, and networking. Live internet, it's like this, we adjust. We would like to thank the understanding of everybody. I don't know if you could hear me, but I was talking a little bit about how Agile Brazil works. It's a community of people united by volunteering. It's something really cool to see this working, especially always with open doors for those who want to help next year. If you want to be part of this community, come and help. It's a wonderful experience. The event has this purpose of promoting communication, agile, cool experiences. We're going to show a little bit how you can interact and enjoy the whole event, promote networking. I think it's all about this. Yeah, come and connect with us. I hope that everyone has a great experience and that if you feel inspired, feel invited to participate next year. And I'd like to thank administrative support from Agile Alliance that helps in the administrative parts of the event, and Creativa that help us and does the help us make this happen. Without the support from Creativa, we wouldn't be here. So thank you to all the team from Creativa, Luciana Moraes and Lee Mello. Big hearts, big thanks for you. Without your help, we wouldn't be able to make this happen. So actively working with everyone, and Agile Alliance also with us, making sure that this event is going to be aligned to the international and national Agile Alliance. Talking about Agile Alliance, we have.
Vale a pena entrar lá no site.
It's worth going to their website. There is a direct link to the community. You get the print screen out of the screen and you can access and register there, or Agile Alliance Brazil community. You will find events that happen over the year promoted by Agile Alliance. This year, they happened on Saturday, if I'm not wrong. Very cool. Talking about information, and it's worth participating of this community. If you could, you can follow the links that we make available in the chat box. This week we have this, so participate. Now we have an institutional video from Bain and Company, one of our sponsors.
At Bain, we believe bold steps and those who take them define the future.
At Bain, nós acreditamos que nós pensamos que as pessoas
Those with the ambition to lead and courage to adapt. Because those who leave an enduring mark are the ones who see the world differently and challenge themselves to be exceptional. We walk that path with our clients every step of the way. We help them see their future in a new light, discover opportunities they may never have imagined, and deliver results that create even greater possibilities. This is where aspiration meets innovation, where candor fuels collaboration, and impossible surrenders to teamwork. With energy, with purpose, with a passion for what we do, we champion the bold to achieve the extraordinary.
Muito bom, nossos
Oh, yeah.
patrocinadores, né? Muito
Very
importante.
cool. Our sponsors, very important. Thank you for sponsoring the event. I'd like to thank ThoughtWorks and all the other sponsors. It's important that you believe in what we're doing here. Without you, it would be difficult to make this happen. So thank you so much on behalf of the community of Agile Brazil. Yes, thank you so much for contributing. And a special call for ThoughtWorks because it has helped us sponsoring this event. Thank you.
Patrocinadores de diversidade.
And sponsors of diversity. Would you like to talk about it, Danny? Yes, this year we started with an initiative developed by the Diversity Committee. Is one of the new committees at Agile Brazil. We started in April, and one of our initiatives was a quote for diversity with this incredible sponsors that believed in the proposal and helped us. So the community and the Agile communities could be here with us, contributing with the ticket so they could we could share this experience with them. So thank you for the sponsors, and from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. No words. Thanks to everyone. Let's talk a little bit about the space here, this virtual space. This year is still online, but I was in love with this virtual space. The way the platform is happening is very fluid. It's really cool. Going to talk a little bit for those who are just joining us. I don't know, yesterday things that started very hectic. We had with Linda and Jeff and a lot of things happening over the day. But those who are joining us today, I think it's cool to talk about this space. Do you see my slider moving on the screen? You see my mouse is, yeah, very small, but we can see it. We have the rooms here where the talks take place and the events take place. We have room special for ThoughtWorks. We have some spaces with the balloons. If you click, you go to a special chat box to talk in the hallways. There is an elevator here. When we click on it, we go to the space here, which is the mezzanine, where there are more things taking place. If you want to learn more about flight level, the open spaces that are going to take place today, you can chat to people, a place for leaving your feedback. There's lots of things, cool things. I don't know if there's anything you want to add. At first, that's it. We encourage that we engage with the Agilists to exploit the platform, look at all the rooms, and look at all the icons that you can click on. Especially, I would like to encourage the use of the feedback wall. So we're going to have references. We're going to post site links. So it's our channel of communication with you. Please get in there, and we encourage you a lot for the chat. Let's communicate. Yes, that's it. So we have the rooms here that this year we have special homage to that we're paying to women that made a difference in the world of technology. Do you want to tell us a little bit who these women are, this homage we're paying? This is another initiative from our diversity community, which is committee, which is inclusion activity. We understand that this event is most inclusive possible and diverse as possible. We rely on your participation. And one of the ways that we found to assure diversity and this message was this homage, this honor that we paid in the name of the rooms of the event. This was the women who had an important or significant input or contribution to science and technology in Brazil, as it has happened before. Basic yesterday, every time we start a transmission of one of the rooms, talks in these rooms, the people who is going to facilitate is going to talk a little bit the history of women. And today we are in the history, Daniela Middle's room. She was a woman who supported the systems. She was awarded to Pulitzer Prize. She created in 1996 an Institute of Sustainability that the main mission was to promote transition to sustainable systems at all levels in the society, global or locally. And another room that is very important to mention today, in addition to this room, we encourage that you follow the stories. They also had the mission. When you click on the room, you will find more stories about this significant women and ensure diversity. Another room that is important to mention today is the ThoughtWorks sponsored room. We're going to have full program from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. They have been with us since yesterday with a program connected to agility and technology. And from 1 to 4, we're going to have a program with a mentoring quarter. So join in there. A lot of cool people, Danella Medals, with Systemic Thoughts is Grace Hopper, was high-level language creator that helped later in the creation of Popol. A lot of cool people here. And Edina Alves, the first engineer, Black person engineer in 1940s, I think. 45, yes. The first women engineer to graduate in Brazil and the first Black woman to graduate in engineering and the first woman to graduate in the state of Paraná in Brazil. Revolutionizing, yes. So mentoring quarter, we're going to have mentoring corners today from 1:30 until 4 p.m. at the space so you can pursue or search for mentoring, knowledge, talk a little bit on your day-to-day basis. And I saw some people that have gone through a lot of things with their experiences. They're going to be ready to help and bring tips and ideas that can help you with your career pathway. We're going to also have open spaces today. Exactly. So today we're going to count on communities from Agiliza, Ceará, Agil, ABC, Baringá, Agil, and Agil 83, where they're going to present and facilitate about failure cases. If you want to show up and share cases, please go to room number 1. Open spaces is another action that is part of our tradition of Agile Brazil, something that has always organically happened. And this is one of the adaptations to the online context. And we can count on the participation again of the community believing in our conference. And they're going to be at room 1, Agiliza Ceará and Maringá Agile, and the room number 2, Agile ABC and Agile 83, which are going to be at room 2, talking about this, what is happening at Agile Brazil so far, where people are going to discuss the themes that happened at Agile Brazil until now. And we're going to talk about cases. It's a space for sharing. Very cool. And then we have a space which I think is very important. It has a lot to do with Agile Brazil, which is the space for talks. I heard that yesterday, 2 in the morning, there were people talking in there. It started yesterday. Some people stayed there long hours. And please, question for the chat box. Everybody here has been to the bar and the coffee and the Agile Brazil Beach Coffee and Bar. You have to access Mentoring Corner and we meet there. In addition to the lobby, to the special chat, that is our hallway. We have other points, so let's enjoy them. Feel free to use them. They're going to be available 24 hours during the event. So just go there and start talking. And the last bracket about that, we encourage a lot the usage of these rooms. Every time there is a talk finishes, you can go to the hallways and continue the conversation there. There's lots to talk about and exchange knowledge and information. We are online, we are live online. So from my home, Klaus is going to join us from Europe. So technical problems may happen. So if you have technical problems, go to another room, be a little patient, but we can overcome. We can come back to work. We have a very good team behind it. So thank you everyone who's supporting and is behind all the technical support and making this work alive. Code of conduct. Agile Brazil is worried about assuring that the space that we are here today is as safe as possible and also very respectful. So we built this code of conduct with a lot of attention and criteria to assure that any harassment or behavior or disrespectful images are shown here. So in our next slide, we have a form that you can fill out in case you witness or suffer violation of this code. We are here to follow up this process and ensure that this is going to be a safe environment for everyone, including ourselves. It's a very brief, fast form to fill out. And we are going to be 100% attention and criteria towards that. You can get a print screen out of this slide and you have the link. I hope you don't need it, but if you need it, you have the link to it. Some other channels we have a doubt channel. We have for inscrições at agilebrazil.com. Danny had talked about the feedback wall. Feedback wall has at the mezzanine, we have a place, I think, on the lower left corner, there is a post that's, you can click there, leave your feedback. So we can only improve if you bring your feedback, what we can do better. Hashtags. Let's talk about the hashtags. First, I would like to thank everyone who have posted in our social network with comments, with taggings. So we are very happy. A lot of things are happening. Just tag us in the stories that we're going to publish here. Thank you for your contributions. Let's continue. Please use tags. Hashtags AgileBR 2021. And here we have our agenda for the day. Not yet. Oh, no, yes. We are right now at the opening. Soon we're gonna have space for Klaus is gonna start with his talk at 10 a.m. He's the keynote, and then we're gonna have the sessions from 11, the lunch break. And then we're gonna go to Mentoring Corner, which is the space that we talked about from 1:30 to 4 p.m. And then from 4 to 6, we have more sessions. And finally, the open spaces that we have 4 communities today with 2 different open spaces. One thing about Mentoring Corner that is important, how does it work? It's for everyone that wants to exchange knowledge, information, and basically I want to learn. So there's somebody else that wants to teach. So you match your timings and from 1:30 to 4 and you get connected and then you make it happen. We're going to make available Zoom rooms for these people. You just have access, the location for the Mentoring Corner and learn and have fun and connect. So it's possible for those who are listening from the community to the community. And finally, our keynote speakers. We have several keynote speakers. Yesterday we had Jeff and Linda. Today we have Klaus. Yesterday we also had Rafael. I got lost a little bit here, but great. And we're going to have Klaus. Please continue in the room after the talk because we're going to have a raffle. It's after the keynote talk, after the keynote speaker, Klaus Leopold. There's going to be a couple of more minutes. He's going to join us live at 10 a.m. to talk about flight levels. And we have more. We have Alison Valley, Mariana Zapparoli, a lot of cool things to happen. A lot of things yet, talks, mentoring corner, and everything else. And that's it. And one last thing that we want to, before we call Klaus, remember to interact here in the room, make your questions up here. On the left, you have the little balls with questions, materials, and the insights. Let's connect. Is that it? Let's call Klaus. Okay. That's the point, important. This talk is going to be in English. In addition to sign language, we're going to have a translation into English. So on the space you have a button for Portuguese. If you want to hear Klaus in English, click on the English button. If you want to hear the translation in Portuguese, click on the Portuguese button and you're going to have all the content translated into Portuguese. And I think that's it. I think we can call Klaus. So we're going to start talking.
Klaus, yay, we're really glad to have you here. Good morning. Good morning to us, right? You're like 2 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Exactly. It's 3 p.m. here. Hi, everyone.
But we're really happy to have you here. And whenever you feel like it,
then I'm ready to go, you mean?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Feel at home and
cool.
Just go.
All right. Perfect. Cool. So the idea is that I need I was asked that I would that I can describe myself how I look like for some people. So how would I describe myself? Well, I'm a white male, and well, although these days I'm a little bit tan because I'm on vacation here in Spain and it's wonderful weather out there. I have short hair. To be precise, I have almost no hair, and these hair I have are turning gray because I'm already 44 years old. So this is me, how I would describe my my looking. All right, so what's the plan today? I think you can already see my slides. Perfect. Yeah, I would like to tell you a little bit about flight levels. And the idea or the main message that I try to get across in the next 45 minutes or so is, what are organizations doing when they are doing flight levels? Okay, so where do we start? Well, I heard it makes sense to start with why. So let's start with why. Why would someone do or something like flight levels? Sorry, I need to adjust my screen a little bit. And there's a fly, sorry. Okay, now. So why should someone do something like flight levels? Well, I tried to capture the why flight levels make sense in a book. It's called Rethinking Agile, and it's also translated to Portuguese. It's called, oh, my Portuguese is really not good. Considerando, no, that's Spanish, right? Repensando, what is it called? Repensando agilidad. Is this correct?
I think so.
Perfect, cool. So rethinking agile, and in this book, I somehow tried to get the message across. Okay, why someone would do something like flight levels. The idea, or the book tells about a story about an organization, and this organization, they had some problems and they wanted to decrease their time to market. I mean, that's something that so many organizations want to do these days, right? And well, their supposed solution to get to this point where they decrease the time to market of their project was, they wanted to build cross-functional agile product teams. We know cross-functional teams, right? We need to tear down all these functional silos. We need to get all knowledge into one team so that this team can deliver totally fast to the market. And this organization, they did it even one step further. They even built product teams. This means one team is only working on one product. So the idea was just to tear down all these functional silos. And then, yeah, they expected that they will deliver projects in light speed to the market. However, it turned out that the result of this agile transformation in this organization was that the time to market was going up. They were going slower, although they invested a ton of money in becoming agile. So why is this the case? Well, in this organization, they were totally focused on this idea of cross-functional product teams. And they thought that's somehow the holy grail, the Spotify model. We know the Spotify model, right? So they were like, yes, that's what we need to do. So they teared down the functional silos, which is actually a good thing. But the problem is what they did, they built up cross-functional silos. And that's not the thing. So in the end, it's not so important how your teams are structured. We need to target the walls in between. So the idea is that we need to optimize the interactions between the teams. We need to make the interactions between the teams agile and not so much the agile teams. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of cross-functional teams, but this alone will not solve your entire problem when it comes to agility. And this is the thing what is explained in this book. Like this was the problem. What was the solution? Well, what we did, we basically applied flight levels thinking to get out of this rabbit hole of like local sub-optimization. With cross-functional teams. We applied flight levels thinking. There's this word thinking in it. So what is flight levels? Well, flight levels is nothing like a blueprint, or I wouldn't call it a framework. For me, it's more really like a thinking model. Flight levels can help you to find out where in an organization you need to do what in order to achieve the results that you want to achieve. So flight levels is not like an out-of-the-box solution which tells you only have to do these things and everything will be fine. Flight levels basically tells you to figure out what the levers, what levers you need to pull in an organization in order to achieve the results that you want to achieve. And when organizations are doing flight levels in their context, what they are doing is they are applying 5 activities on 3 levels. And this is basically the core of flight levels, applying 5 activities on 3 levels. So let's take a look at the 5 activities and then at the 3 levels and how this works together. So when organizations are doing flight levels, as a first activity, they are visualizing their situation. Visualize the situation and understand where you are, more or less, right? So the idea is, if you want to become better, if you want to improve something, it makes sense that we actually see what's going on. Because if we don't, if we fly blind, so to say, it's really quite hard to improve something. So the first activity that organizations are doing is they are visualizing their situation. This would be an example for a visualization of a situation. What we see here is one of these boards. I know we are on an Agile conference here. I don't have to tell you something about visual boards or stuff like this, but this board is like one extreme. In this board is this is really like what we see here is checklists, a process and everything. This means this is a situation where we have a high degree of uncertainty. We know what's going on, and that's the reason why we have a structured process. We have checklists, and we just know what we have to do, right? So this is one way of how such a visualization could look like. On the other end of the spectrum, a visualization could look like this. What we see here is a high degree of uncertainty. We basically see just a pattern of now, next, and later. So currently we're working on these items that are in this now, and everything is a little bit blurry. We know until Christmas we want to work on this stuff, and then there's end of March and the future. So a high degree of uncertainty, not really a process, nothing. But still, it helps us to understand actually what's going on, right? So this is like 2 extremes. One visualization is really like with checklists and everything, high degree of certainty. The other is like a very high degree of uncertainty. 2 extremes. We know the world is not like black and white. There are 50 shades of gray in between. And the thing is, when organizations are doing flight levels, what they are doing is they're just trying to make sense out of how is work actually being done here. We want to see what's going on. So that's the first activity, visualize situation. What else? Organizations are also creating focus. What is creating focus? Creating focus is one of the most important, I would say that probably the essential activity that each and every organization needs to do when they really want to improve something. Creating focus basically means like stop starting, start finishing. Let's stop starting work and let's finish work that's going on, because usually starting work costs money and finishing work brings money. So let's more or less earn money instead of spend money, right? This is like behind create focus. We know from different agile methods, different ways of how you could create focus. WIP limits is something, working process limits is something which is quite well known, like in the Kanban world. Time boxes like sprints is more known in the Scrum world. So there are certain ways of creating focus, but the bottom line is always the same. What we want to do is we want to prevent situations like this. Situations like this, where the entire work system is flooded with work, right? And I cannot like this picture really a lot because, well, you don't have to study flow science or something like this if you want to interpret this picture, right? Everybody sees what's going on here, right? Well, actually, I've been to Sao Paulo 1 or 2 years ago, and this could be Sao Paulo, actually. So I kind of like this picture because, yeah, we know what's going on, right? Because if I'm the car which is entering this road up here, I probably won't go 200 kilometers per hour on a road like this, right? So if our system is like congested, speed is really not the thing that we can deliver, right? So highly utilized systems are very slow. And the other thing is also quite clear. If I'm the car that's entering this road here, I have no freaking clue when I'm out there. Like due date performance, on-time delivery is totally, I mean, networks like this are totally unpredictable, right? And this is obvious. And I kind of like this picture because we can easily transfer this picture to our organizations. Let's assume our organization is an agile organization, and we build boards. We build all these boards, and each road corresponds one of these boards that we're building. Let's assume this is our, I don't know, Kanban portfolio board. Here we have another Kanban board. Here we have a Scrum board. Here we probably have a safe train somewhere passing by. So this is all the boards that we are building in our organization. And now we fully utilize them. We flood them with work, right? And what a surprise. You won't be faster at all, right? So the point is not that we do Kanban, Scrum, Safe, less, more, or something like this. That's not the thing. The thing is, no matter what we do, what we need to figure out is we need to remove the cars from our network. This means we need to remove work out of our systems if we want to become faster. And that's exactly what organizations are doing when they are creating focus. They stop starting work and they focus on finishing work because we want to prevent this or avoid these congested work systems, right? So what are organizations doing when they are doing flight levels? They are visualizing the situation and they are creating focus. They are also establishing agile interactions. What is an agile interactions? Well, for me, it is a good form of a conversation, right? We need to make sure that the right people are talking about the right stuff at the right time. Remember the cross-functional silos before? That's exactly where we need to establish communication across all the silos in our organization. That's something what we call agile interactions, right? To make sure that the right people are working on the right stuff at the right time. This is one of the, also a very important activity actually, because we can build the best work systems on this planet, the most beautiful boards and everything. If the people are not working together, we won't see any improvement. It's all about the people. And that's, activity number 4. We need to make sure that the right people are working on the right stuff at the right time. Activity number 4 is we need to measure progress. And I kind of like this one as well. Something like time to market or whatever it is. And if we see, okay, we are becoming faster, then this means, okay, let's do more of it. And if we're not becoming faster, we need to change something, right? So when we talk about measurements in the flight levels world, it's always about a feedback loop. It's not like let's measure random stuff because we can and because our tool supports this measurement. It's really like we want to establish a feedback loop which tells us, are we on the right track? And the other thing is, whenever we start to measure something, the cool thing is we need to have a common understanding about what's going on. For instance, I see a lot of organizations who are like, okay, we need to improve our quality. Perfect. I think everybody would agree, improving quality is always a great thing. But how do we see that we are making progress? So how can we measure that we are making progress? Then we need to be more precise. So how do we see that quality is improving? By less bugs in the bug tracker? Or is it fewer calls at the support center? So we need to be precise now and we need to figure out, okay, what is it? And this discussion basically gives us a common understanding among all the people that are involved. For instance, I love it when organizations say, we want to improve agility, or we want to become agile. Perfect. Agility is probably the biggest balloon of hot air ever. For one kind of people, agility is like, we are becoming faster. And another crowd of people is like, agility is about hugging trees, right? So what is it? So how can we measure that we are more agile, let's say in 3 months or so? And now we need to somehow make it more precise and find the common understanding what we mean. And that's the thing why measurements are so important. It's about the feedback loop. Are we on the same track? And it's about, do we have a common understanding actually what we want to achieve? That's activity number 4, right? 5 activities. This means one activity is missing, and this last activity is improve. And what does this mean? This means when we're talking to each other, and well, that's it. Now you could say, okay, nice. What's so special with this, right? So I mean, if I take a look at these 5 activities, for instance, Scrum would perfectly fit in there. Design thinking probably as well. Kanban for sure, right? So this is all somehow fits in there. The thing with flight levels is you do not apply these 5 activities somewhere isolated in your organization. What you want to do with flight levels is you want to apply these 5 activities at 3 different levels in your organization. And you want that these 3 levels are connected together, right? So it's not only about the activities, you need to apply these activities on 3 different levels in your organization. And this is exactly where the flight levels kick in. So let's take a quick look at the flight levels. What is this? Flight level is a term from aviation. It describes basically how high an airplane is flying. And given on how high you're flying, you see different things, right? If you're flying very high, you see quite a lot of area, but you don't see a lot of details. If you fly very low, your vision is somehow restricted, but you see a lot of details, right? And the same is true in organizations. In organizations, we can also fly on different flight levels. For instance, if we fly very low in an organization, which is flight level 1, this is the operational level. The operational level, on the operational level, we see a lot of details. This is like how the teams are working, right? And we connect it with the teams, right? It's also quite often the case that we have dependencies between products and services. Then we would build another flight level 2 system. We would somehow bring these flight level 2 systems closer together so that we can manage our dependencies also across multiple flight level 2 systems, across multiple products and services. But that's still a flight level 2 problem to be solved. All right, in organizations, we can fly even a little bit higher. And this would be flight level 3, and flight level 3 is strategy, right? Strategy means what we want to do here is we want to align the work in the organization on the strategy, and we want to make, let's say, strategy happen. This means we are connecting these flight level 3 systems with the flight level 2 and flight level 1 systems below. Yeah. Most of the time we have more than one flight level 3 system because we are probably operating in different countries and stuff like this. So we could have multiple flight level 3 system in organizations, right? And yeah, well, these are the flight levels. And again, as I said before, the idea is that we are applying these 5 activities on flight level 3, on flight level 2, on flight level 1, multiple times, right? Everywhere in the organization. And the point behind the flight levels is not so much about, I don't know, flight level 3 times better than flight level 1. No, it's not. The idea behind flight levels is that we need to apply these 5 activities on all the levels, because all the levels, they need to like collaborate in order to become agile on the market. It's usually not a good idea to do isolated, like make isolated parts of the organization agile. We need to think in all these 3 levels. So these are the flight levels. It's not an organizational chart replacement or something like this. Flight levels is about the operational structure. Flight levels is about how we are actually working. So we want to map our operational structure to these flight levels. This means we, in our context, need to figure out what are our flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. Yeah, and by doing so, what we are doing is we build a so-called work systems topology. So when organizations start with flight levels, one of the first things is that they try to figure out what are their flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. And that's what we call the build the work systems topology.
Excuse me, Klaus.
Yeah.
We had a little problem with our transmission, and people
Okay.
are not watching you since flight levels 2. Actually, we were at the 3rd level. We're kind of offline right now at the platform. People
okay.
are watching you, so really sorry.
No problem. So like here somewhere?
I actually just found out that it had a little break. We had a little break in the slide where you show the 5 stages, 5 steps.
I think you can go from here, and at the end, if you can talk again about the 5 activities, will be great.
So talk about 5 activities and then recap at flight levels.
Yeah.
Please.
Sorry
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So shall I quickly revisit the 5 activities?
Please.
Yeah, like here?
Not a problem.
Okay, and then continue with the flight levels in fast forward mode.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
and
cool, no problem.
People are like loving it. And people are like, oh man, it's like stopped. And oh my God, what's happening? And people are like, we have already questions. People are really engaging here. So we'll have
That's
just
good.
to wait a little. Looks good.
Sure, no problem.
Oh.
No problem. I grab the water. Just tell me when I continue.
Okay, perfect.
I think we're back.
Okay.
Huh?
Oh, there's a little delay from the transmission to the recording. I'm not sure. I'm going to. Aliandra actually will tell us when we can recap.
I think we back, Dani. I can see us online. So Klaus, please, I think you can continue.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I will just step in here with the 5 activities. I will quickly recap the activities and then go to the 3 levels, the 3 flight levels, okay? All right, so what are organizations doing when they are doing flight levels? They visualize the situation to see what's going on. They create focus, which means they try to stop starting work and start finishing work, because starting work costs money and finishing work makes money. It's always better to earn money than to spend money. Organizations are establishing agile interactions. This means they make sure that the right teams are working on the right stuff at the right time. Organizations, they measure their progress. Measure progress is a feedback loop, which means like, okay, it tells us, are we heading in the right direction? And organizations are improving. That's what organizations do when they do flight levels. And the important thing here is they don't do this somewhere isolated in the organizations. In the organization, what they are doing is they are applying these 5 activities on 3 different levels in the organization. And this is where the flight levels step in. So there are 3 flight levels, and flight level is a term from aviation. It describes how high a plane is flying, right? So if a plane is flying very high, I see different things than when the plane is flying very low. When a plane is flying very low, I see a lot of details, but my vision is somehow restricted, right? And the same is true in organizations. We can fly very low in organizations, then we are flying on flight level 1. This is the operational level, the teams that are actually doing the work, right? So this is very detailed. I see technical details, what the teams are working on, and so on. So this is flight level 1, the operational level. And the idea is that the team now applies these 5 activities in their work environment, right? So they make the work visible, and they visualize the situation, create focus, establish actual interactions, and so on. Most of the time, an organization has more, surprise, surprise, than only one team. We have multiple teams, right? So we would see multiple of these flight level 1 systems in an organization. And the idea now is that all these teams are applying these 5 activities in their work context. Most of the time, one team alone cannot deliver to the market. We need multiple teams that are somehow collaborating in order to deliver value to the market. If we want to realize this in an organization, we need to fly a little bit higher. We need to fly on flight level 2. Flight level 2 is end-to-end coordination. Flight level 2 is like your products and services, everything that your customer is happy to see from you, right? On this level, we make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. And the thing is, we are connecting the flight level 2 system with the flight level 1 systems. So on the flight level 2, we make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. And the cool thing is, and this is why flight levels is method agnostic, we don't care which agile method is being done on the team level. Teams can do Scrum, they can do Kanban, whatever they want, right? We just want to make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. And the idea is that we're applying the 5 activities again. And this is how we are actually achieving this. So if this is the world of products and services, usually an organization has more than only one product or service. So we would see multiple of these flight level 2 systems in an organization. We would apply these 5 activities multiple times in an organization. Quite often, we see dependencies between products and services. This is where we bring these systems closer together. We probably build another flight level 2 system where we again apply these 5 activities. And now we can manage our dependencies across multiple products and services, but still a flight level 2 problem that we're solving here. We can fly one level higher in organizations, and this would be flight level 3. Flight level 3 is the strategy level. This means what we are doing here is we are aligning the entire work, or we are aligning the work in the organization on the strategy, and we make strategy happen by connecting the flight level 3 system with the flight level 2 and flight level 1 system. So even on flight level 3, we are again applying these 5 activities. Most of the time, we see multiple flight level 3 systems in organizations. For instance, if we are operating in different countries or so. So we could have multiple flight level 3 systems. But the idea is, again, we are applying the 5 activities on all these levels in the organization. So if we take a look at these 3 levels here, one could say, well, this looks like our org chart somehow. So we could easily map the org chart to these 3 flight levels. Flight level 1, the teams, right? Flight level 3, senior management, and then some department and whatever in between. Well, yes, you can map your org chart to the flight levels, but usually it's really not a good idea to map the org chart to the flight levels, because flight levels is not about the organizational structure. When we talk flight levels, it's always about the operational structure. The operational structure, like how is work flowing through our organization? That's what we want to capture with flight levels, and not like what are the hierarchies or stuff like this, right? So the very first thing, what we need to do is, when we start with flight levels, we need to figure out what are our flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. In flight levels land, we call this, we build the work systems topology. A work systems topology tells us in our organization, what are our flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. So these are 3 real life work systems topologies, what you see here. And you can already see they look totally different than the 3 flight levels that I've just shown before, right? So if we zoom in a little bit here, we can even see some details. Like for instance, here we have a flight level 3 system, which is somehow combined with a flight level 2 system. So that's also something what we see quite often in organizations, that flight levels are somehow merged together, right? And we also see that teams are working on different flight level 2 systems. So this is a flight level 1 system here, and this team is working on this flight level 2 system and on this flight level 2 system. So the thing is, when we start with flight levels, we need to figure out what are our flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems and how are they connected together. That's what we call a work systems topology. And the idea is that now we can apply the 5 activities basically on each and every of these boxes here, right? That's one step. Another step is what we also need to make sure, if we are in an environment like this, what is the actual work that we are working on these different systems here? Like, for instance, do we want to talk about tasks on a strategy board? Well, that's obvious, most likely not, right? But what is it what we are talking here, right? What is it what we are talking there? That's something what we call the flight items. So the flight items is basically just like a common understanding of on what level, what is the work that we are managing there, that we are coordinating there. And this sounds somehow trivial, but I've seen in reality, it is not. For instance, if we introduce new words like epics or something like this, by the way, this is just an example, what you see here. So flight levels doesn't say these are the 4 work items. We need to figure out what your flight items are in your organization, right? But what I see quite often in organizations, people talk about epics. And in one environment, an epic is something that can be delivered to the market in 6 weeks or so. And in another environment, epics are these 3-year projects from before Agile, right? So we need to have a common understanding of, what are we talking about when we talk about work? So these are the flight items. So now we know the work systems topology. This means we know what are our flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems, and we know what kind of work we are seeing on these flight level systems. Now we just need to make it flow. And this is what we call flight routes. Flight routes basically explains how work is flying through your organization. And what I'm showing you here is, again, just an example. It's an example from a real life company. And this is not like how each and every organization is doing this, but just to give you an idea what flight routes are. And I think that's really the missing link in so many organizations, that we don't see how work is actually flying across the entire organization. So what we see here is the so-called company wall. This is, let's say, a flight level 3 and 2 combination, right? And this system below here, this board, is a flight level 2 system. So how is work now flying through these boards? Well, what we see here on the company wall, there we have a strategy and KPI information. For instance, we want to, enter the Hungarian market, right? Company strategy. And now the flight level 2 system, they basically take the strategy down to their system, and they're like, okay, we want to enter the Hungarian market. Perfect. But what does this mean for us? So what is our strategy? So in this case, that's a product. What is our product strategy to enter the Hungarian market, right? So they come up with their own way to get there. What is next in this organization? And again, this is just an example, right? This is not like how flight levels is doing it. It's an example of an organization. This organization, they are like, okay, we need to write a canvas. A canvas is basically something where they try to somehow put the jelly on the wall, where they nail the jelly on the wall, where they try to somehow make sense out of what does this mean. So it's just a high level description of what they want to achieve. In their context, a canvas could be delivered to the market in 2 days or in 2 years. So there's totally no time bound behind it. However, in the next step, they are like, okay, we need to somehow grasp the time a little better. So they are generating initiatives out of a canvas. An initiative is something in this organization which is producing impact in the market within 3 months, right? So here we have something where we receive impact in the market in 3 months. Now we could imagine that this flight level 2 system, they just start working on this initiative. But that's actually not the case. What they are doing is they are copying the initiative to the flight level 3 system. And not only this flight level 2 system is copying their initiatives to the flight level 3 system, all the other flight level 2 systems, they are also copying their initiative to the flight level 3 system. So we have a competition here, right, of all the great ideas that we want to deliver to the market in the next 3 months. Most of the time, some great ideas are also flying in from a side, from our lawmakers and stuff like this. So we have to comply to regulations or something like this, right? And they're also like in this pool of this is the stuff that we could do in the next 3 months. So this organization now is having a so-called strategy meeting. So they try to come up with the best initiatives with the highest impact in the market. And then they decide, okay, that's what we are going to deliver. But there's this conscious decision to have this competition of the best ideas in the organization. After the strategy meeting, we know, okay, this is the thing what we want to deliver to the market. And now the flight level 2 systems pull the initiative from the flight level 3 system to their flight level 2 system, and then they start to work on it. So flight level 3 does not push it down, but flight level 2 pulls it from the flight level 3, right? Now we are talking about initiatives here. This is 3 months big work items. So that's quite a lot for teams. So in this organization, what they are doing is they are splitting the initiatives into epics. Epics is something where teams have an idea what it means. So we're talking about 2 to 6 weeks of work. So that's something where teams can communicate with, right? But still, epics are quite big for teams to immediately start to work on. So what they are doing next is they are copying the epic to the team board, to the flight level 1 system. And on the flight level 1 system, they are splitting the epic into stories. And these are the stories where the teams can now work on. So what we've seen here is a so-called flight route. And the flight route basically tells us how work is flying through our organization so that we can achieve impact in the market. So the thing is not only that we have 3 different flight levels, we also need to connect them together with flight routes so that the entire organization can actually act agile in the market. And the cool thing with flight routes is it's not a thing that's somehow carved in stone. So flight routes is a very great communication tool. For instance, you can view the flight routes a little bit abstract. You can zoom out a little bit, and then you can see some patterns. Let's assume these are our flight level 3, 2, and 1 systems, right? If you only see flight routes like this tells us something, right? This flight route probably tells us that we have very smart people here on flight level 3 who exactly know what the rest of the organization has to do, right? So if we only see patterns like this, yeah, I'm not sure if this is a good sign, right? Another pattern would be something like this. I kind of like this pattern. That's what we've just seen before. So this is like, okay, work can origin somewhere within the product area. Then we have maybe a competition of the best ideas on the flight level 3, and then we operationalize the work, right? So work can go up and then it can go down again. Another flight route is something like this. I love this one. Even the teams. What if teams have great ideas? How is it possible that a great idea from a team can become a company strategy? Is there a way actually in our organization how this can happen? I mean, I've seen so many organizations who are doing these hacking days. So teams are hacking for some days and they are coming up with great stuff. And then nothing happens. They go back and just like normal work. But the thing is, if there's really great ideas from the teams, how can we make a company priority out of it, right? And this is also a quite important flight route, which is like, do we always have to include others in our decisions, or do we have autonomy so that we can take our own decisions, right? So we also want to see flight routes like this, which means, yeah, we have a lot of autonomy here, right? So the point behind flight routes is that one flight route alone is not actually good or bad. It just is, if I only see a certain kind of pattern of flight route in an organization, the alarm signals, this is an alarm signal, I mean. For instance, if I only see flight routes like this means we probably have a lot of autonomy in the organization, but maybe we don't have a lot of alignment, right? So people are basically doing whatever they want to do. If we only have flight routes which are going from flight level 3 to flight level 1, it probably means, okay, we have a lot of alignment, but totally no autonomy. So the thing is, it's the mixture of the flight routes. And if you are trying to come up with flight routes in a workshop with your organization, you will see this triggers really important like conversations, how you think that we want to run our organization. So this is a picture of multiple flight routes in one organization. And this is actually what we want to take a look at. We always want to see multiple flight routes and multiple ways of how work is actually flying through our organization. All right, so if you want to get more information about the boards that you've just seen before, there are 2 videos where these boards are explained. The second video is with Matthias Batzak. He's explaining the company wall. And the first video, this is Jochen Kurz, where he's explaining the flight level 2 system and how this flight level 2 system works. If you are good in German, then that's good because the videos are in German, but there are English subtitles, so you can at least even read it in English. All right. Well, and we've talked about the 5 activities. We have talked about the 3 flight levels, and what I've just shown you right now is something what we call a flight level systems architecture. So one thing is that we understand what are our flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. That's what we call the work systems topology. We also need to understand what work is managed where in our organization. That's what we call the flight items. And the flight routes describe how work is actually flying through the entire organization. And these 3 topics, like the work systems topology, the flight items, and the flight routes, they build the flight level systems architecture. And before you start to apply the 5 activities, you need to figure out your flight level systems architecture. And if you are at this point, then it's really about, you basically reach the goal of business agility if you can make this happen in your organization. All right, just to recap, what do you need? You need a flight level systems architecture. You need to know what are your flight level 1, 2, and 3 systems. What is the work? How is work flying through your organization? You need to create the flows. This means if you have your flight level systems architecture, on each of these boxes on the systems architecture, you need to apply the 5 activities: visualize the situation, create focus, and so on. And of course, you need a lot of change leadership when you want to start with flight levels in your organization. I haven't talked about this, but this could be an entire session of multiple days, actually. Because when it comes to flight levels, we think that it makes sense that you, let's say, eat your own dog food in the change process. So flight levels totally builds on an agile change process. It doesn't make sense to implement agility in an organization with a waterfall process. So there's the change mentality of flight levels is actually, we want to do an agile change process where we even react to changes during the process. All right. And yes, that's actually everything I wanted to share with you today. Thank you.
Yay, thank you so much. Yeah, we have a couple of questions here from our audience. People loved it. Yay. I'm so happy to have you here. And Leandro is going to make some questions that our audience made. So yay.
Yeah, we have some questions. The first one came from Rafael Araújo. Where you can start to rethinking agility with flight level? I start with level 1, level 2, level 3.
That's an excellent question, actually. The thing is, I would not start with flight level 1. On flight level 1, you really have to invest most of the change energy. Let's consider you're working in an organization with 1,000 people. 1,000 people need to change the way how they work. So that's really a lot of invest if you want to change on flight level 1. On flight level 3, on the other hand, it really makes sense to start there, because this is where you have the biggest lever in your hand. So I always say the first agile team in an organization should be something like the management team, because they somehow frame, or they set the frame of the entire change. So I'm a huge fan of starting on flight level 3. However, now the point, most of the time, organizations start on flight level 2. And I think that's a very good compromise, because flight level 2 is most of the time the missing link when it comes to business agility. I see it in many organizations that flight level 3, like strategy, is somehow working. McKinsey was here, and there is a slide set with 200 slides of strategy and stuff like this. And on the other hand, on flight level 1, we see teams are working with Scrum and Kanban, but in between, there is a huge void. So if you start on flight level 2, it's most of the time the biggest bang for the buck. So not always, but most of the time, start with flight level 2. Exactly.
Nice. We have other questions. Paulo Cassin asked about OKRs and flight level. Do you see some connection? If yes, how do you use it?
Yeah, also a very good question. So what we see in flight levels land is that, especially when it comes to OKR, I don't know, OKRs and flight levels is not like fire and water. OKRs and flight level is more like steak and potato. They go very well together. So we see a lot of organizations that are doing OKR on flight level 3. That's just how they are turning strategy into action. So you could seamlessly do OKR with flight levels. And actually, I see many organizations, maybe even the majority of organizations, who use OKRs, because OKR is the hot thing to do these days. So it's just like a perfect match.
Nice. Do you have some sample how you use it?
Yeah. So usually so OKR means objectives and key results, right? In flight levels land, you not only do OKRs, most of the time we do OKRAs. So we add an A. So we also apply action. Most of the time it's like this, that on the flight level 3, we come up with objectives, then we come up with key results, and even on the flight level 3, we define actions, how we want to achieve the key results. And this is actually quite important, because what I see quite often in organizations, that we are doing OKRs, and then the key results or the OKRs are passed to another area. They are again doing OKRs, and then it's passed to another area. And even on the individual level, on the team level, on the virtual level, everybody's doing OKRs. But the thing is, you need to start working sooner or later. So there's the thing where we say, okay, we do OKR on a flight level 3, but then we add an A, like action, and we define concrete actions, how we are achieving like the OKRs, and we pass these actions to the flight level 2, and on the flight level 2, we are operationalizing it and connecting it to the teams. So OKR on flight level 3, add the action to it, put the actions down to the flight level 2, and then you have flow in the entire organization. I hope this somehow makes sense without slides, but this is somehow how many organizations are doing it.
Nice. About C-level, how can I approach C-level? What's your suggestions?
Yeah, that's a huge question, actually. So, well, I don't know where to start. So, what my experience with C-level is, I try to approach them through the economics. And this is something which actually works quite well. Usually C-level is responsible for the entire organization. So if we're talking money, then yeah, most of the time I get their attention. And one way of doing it is with creating focus, which is the second activity. And I try to get across that creating focus in an organization is really an important thing to do, because if you're creating focus, you can really make money. As I already said, starting work costs money, finishing work brings money. And if you put like the concept of cost of delay into the conversation, then it's becoming quite obvious for everything that agility is not so much about hugging trees. Agility is pure economy. In the end, we are earning way more money and people are feeling better. So that's a quite good trade-off in the end, right? So I try to have this economical discussion with C-level and just prove that agility makes economically perfectly sense.
Nice.
Great focus, cost of delay.
Very, 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 very nice. Klaus, thank you. Sorry about our technical problems. You'll be at the special chat, right? After here,
yes.
So people can talk more about flight levels. For now, thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Bye. Muito bem.
Very good.
Vamos voltar aqui para o português, então.
Let's go back to Portuguese. Let me share my screen. I'm going to share my screen now. Very good. We have just seen Klaus talk. We have now the raffle and some messages